Your avoidant ex fueled your addiction to them by coming into your life, stirring up all of your energetic love that they wanted to escape into, and then, when things became too real, they escaped into distancing themselves from you. They're an escape artist. That's the side of them you didn't know yet, and you still don't understand it. Sometimes we chase relationships with messed up people who we don't realize at the time are bad for us because they've only ever had just enough time to reveal to us their beautiful potential. They show us a glimpse of very real characteristics they have that are attractive and fun. They add a huge hit of love and hope and dopamine into our lives. And that's why if you get involved with someone who stirs up all of this excitement and then discards you out of nowhere, you feel like an addict in withdrawal. The abrupt absence of love, it can cause mental and physical pain. I remember having an actual pain over my heart whenever I would exhale. My name is Maria, and this video is not to ever shame you for feeling like you can't stay away from your ex. They had a big hand in why you feel so out of control when they leave. Avoidant discards cause harm, and a brutal discard is not your fault, but it does make you vulnerable to chasing the potential of what the relationship could have been, even if it's nothing more than a replayed fantasy. It's a fantasy of who your ex has the potential to be, as opposed to the reality of how they are acting right now. And your brain uses these thoughts to replace the dopamine of the love you feel you have lost. Rejection can fuel fantasies that gloss over all of your ex's flaws, pedestalizing them and keeping you feeling desperate to stay in this perfect person's life. But your ex isn't perfect. Your sense of their reality is being distorted by a drug of the mind, and it's called Limerence. Limerence is a dark addiction to fantasy thinking that does start to feel real. And you may never have heard of it before. All you know is you can't stop the rumination and the texting, even though it's making everything worse and it's bad for you. And you can't even see how bad it's getting. It's because limerent thoughts won't allow you to see just how bad the things were that your ex did to you. Betray you, abandon you, refuse to commit to you, even though they have no problem using you. Limerent thoughts flip their cowardly misdeeds into noble behaviors. This fantasy is your body's way of protecting you from the trauma right now. But in the long run, it's going to cost you opportunities to find the kind of relationship you actually want. So if you are ready to break the addiction to your ex's imaginary potential and win the relationship you actually want, then grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. Your avoidant ex showed you a wonderful part of themselves, but they never finished the thought. Avoidants will fall in love with you and then tell you they won't be with you right now. That's the reality. But when reality hurts too much, our brain produces a secret weapon to protect us. That's the limerence. Limerence is an addictive thought pattern that does protect us from feeling the full traumatic impact of the discard. And it's a pattern of thinking that won't allow you to see how bad things are. And it does this by triggering your mind into doing what is called a limerent flip. So when the person that you've fallen in love with tells you that they aren't ready for a relationship, that limerence comes into the background and adds, but they will come back someday, and then everything will be perfect. And the word perfect is a red flag of limerence, because in life, perfection is not realistic. But your sense of who they really are is being distorted by limerence, especially after a rejection. People look bigger and shinier and even more perfect. And I know we have a tendency to pedestalize people who reject us, but perfect isn't even a label that they deserve. And you hear it all the time. Things were perfect. We were perfect. They were perfect for me. And, I don't know about everything in this life, but I can tell you with certainty that the person who is perfect for you is not running from you. They love you through family, through hard times. They love you on your birthday. They love you on holidays. They show up for you. And it is not like pulling teeth to get them to say, I love you. That person is not perfect, but that's why Limerence feels so good. We can use Limerence to turn our ex into anyone that we need them to be. I used to use Limerence to turn my dismissive avoidant ex into any kind of man I wanted him to be. I could turn him into the kind of man who would never say, I love you, and then just leave. I mean, what kind of a jerk does that? Well, he does. He's been loving women and fearfully running away from the responsibility of love for 20 years. And I was just one more. No amount of limerent thinking could change that about him. And it could never change the truth of what happened. And the truth is, I never knew all of those imperfect sides of him. I never met the escape artist until the rubber hit the road and we had been dating for a few months. And there began to be a natural progression to having expectations in the relationship. And until he discarded me, I never realized how emotionally messed up he was. But quite frankly, until he did that, I never realized how messed up I was either. I really hit rock bottom. We feel like we cannot function without them. Someone else's behavior, especially a brutal discard, can rip open a world of traumatic pain we've never addressed. And as we go through life, we just use something like drugs or being married to our career, or we use other people to put a Band-Aid on top of it. We aren't addressing the core issues of why we are so attracted to messed up people. And then we continue to get involved with messed up people. But when they pull a move that to any secure person would be completely unacceptable, total deal breaker, well, our limerence creeps in and it gives them a pass. Oh gosh, they're not so bad. It's kind of like that obnoxious person in your friend group that you can only stand when you're drunk or high. These limerent drug goggles help you ignore the bad behavior, and it does put them on a pedestal, and especially after a rejection. Now they're on a pedestal and you are down here just so unworthy. And do you see what I'm doing right now? This is like an actual visual aid of what limerence does as it detaches you from reality. And this was at one time, limerence was a mechanism that they say is used to survive when maybe you were little and you were only getting the crumbs of love that you needed. But now it's not doing you any favors, because the limerence is taking the crumbs that you're getting in your adult relationships and it's filling in the gaps where they are dropping the ball. It's covering up the flaws that would naturally help you get over the breakup. And it's giving you the dopamine that was taken from you in the discard. So your brain doesn't want to give it up. And it keeps you hooked on an unrealistic 2D version of someone who does not actually currently exist. They're not the same in reality as you see them in your mind right now. You know how I know that your ex is being inflated in your mind? Well, I mean, I have been through it, and I do one-on-one calls with people, usually during the aftermath of a discard. So a lot of people come to me and they talk about their ex, and a lot of times they know what their ex did to them was wrong, but they're still in a place where they would do anything to get them back. And I hear you. There is no shame. I've been exactly where you are. But if you were on the outside listening to things that your ex has done to you, you would be like, oh my gosh, why do you want them back? Because understand, this channel is not for people who were in a relationship that grew apart over time. You've had a couple of big fights, a couple of hard talks, and you've decided maybe you should take some space from each other for a while. No, I'm talking to people. This channel is for people who get involved with other people who are purely selfish, unempathetic. Their callous actions make you feel small. They discard you out of nowhere, or at the very least, They're just mean-spirited. The kind of people who blow off an anniversary that they know is important to you just to create distance because they know they can and because we let them get away with it. We are pedestalizing bullies. Well, it's time to fight back. So, how do you fight something like limerence? Well, you properly identify it for what it is, and when you do that, that's how you're able to deal with it. And then you deal with it like it's an addiction. I once had a viewer ask if I thought limerence was a mental health condition, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not someone who can diagnose anybody, but I am someone who has a great deal of experience in successfully overcoming addictions. So let's look at why someone like me, as well as professionals, compare limerence to a drug addiction. What do drugs do? Well, drugs keep you from being upset over the harsh realities of your life. They dull the pain. Drugs keep you from feeling present in the reality of your life. They cost you positive opportunities. Drugs make everything feel better, and even if your life is getting worse, you feel like you can't stop. Drugs make mundane tasks look more fun, and they make dull people look more interesting. Well, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also need to take care of the inner half. Because I guarantee you, your ex or whoever your unattainable, emotionally unavailable limerent object is, they are nowhere near as interesting as your limerent mind is painting them to be. Limerence is designed to help them look better, and you stay hooked longer. But we do hang on because part of what makes the limerent fantasy of reuniting with someone seem so attainable is because what you are looking for is not unrealistic. In fact, the person you are obsessing over right now, the person withholding all of these caring actions, was probably showing up as thoughtful and caring right before they discarded you. And that is evidence that they are capable of showing up that way. And we ruminate on the thoughts and remain stuck in this memory. If they could just do this, it would be great. If they could just push past the fear and then awaken to their true feelings, then we can be together and my life will be wonderful. But you're hinging your entire future on them, and what would be better is for you to sit back and take a look at the landscape and ask the realistic question, what is actually going on right now? They did tell you they loved you 2 months ago, but what are they saying right now? What is actually going on? And what's actually going on is you aren't getting what you really want. That consistent attention they were showing you in the beginning, that feeling of being cherished, that is what you want. That's why you attached to them. That's why it felt so good. And good news, it is not an outlandish dream. I was listening to a guy on a podcast talk about how every weekend he and his wife get ice cream and they talk about what's been going on in their life. He says it is the highlight of his week. Finding someone who enjoys eating ice cream with you is realistic and attainable. Feeling like you have to crack some top secret government code to get someone to love you is so beyond unnecessary. There is someone out there who does want the same things you do. They want someone just like you, but they will never find you if you are emotionally unavailable because you are always sort of 1 foot out the door, ready to drop everything for the fantasy of someone who will suddenly, someday, open up their heart to you. I once heard that avoidants are addicted to escape, and I personally believe that we meet people where we are on some level. And you are the most vulnerable to limerence when you don't feel like you have a very fulfilling life. So if this person felt like an escape from your empty or monotonous gray life, yeah, you were definitely susceptible to feeling addicted to them. If you listen to anybody who has struggled with an addiction, but they've also overcome the addiction, they'll tell you one of the ways that you stay sober, or let's say present, is you build things in your life that you have to show up for. Things that are important enough, that you enjoy enough, that you're not going to risk losing all that stuff over a few minutes of cheap dopamine. So many people who are addicted to things who are bad for them overcame it because they finally built a life for themselves that they no longer felt they needed an escape from. So it's time to want to be present in your own life. And when you make that commitment to leave your ex behind, I want you to know that there will be a period that feels like withdrawal. And you're probably going to go through a temporary season of feeling a little more lonely. And I also want you to know that building a great life and getting over a discard and being healthy and happy, none of this happens overnight. So give yourself a little grace. You can change your life, but it starts with small steps. Start today by identifying the worst time of day that you find yourself susceptible to limerent fantasy thinking, rumination, the thoughts that trigger you to do things like text your ex or check their social media, and introduce a pattern interrupt. For me, I developed a self-eroding habit of lying in bed for far too long in the mornings, fantasizing about my ex, and it was really becoming a problem. So I decided I was going to get a part-time job doing something with animals. It was something that I enjoyed. It forced me to go to work in the mornings. I became accountable to somebody. I had to get up and show up. And on the way to work, I listened to books about boundaries and books about how to identify safer people in my life instead of listening to videos about how to change my avoidant ex or how to change, myself in order to make myself more attractive to them. No, I listened to people that helped me navigate reality instead of people who helped me fuel the fantasy. You absolutely can overcome the addiction to limerent thinking, and it all starts right here. These are the real life steps I took transforming your life after a catastrophic breakup, so you no longer feel the need to live in an augmented reality. And if you want to learn more about avoidant bullies, I'll put that video in the description below. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.